man.
Oh, 3 cameras.
Why are there 3? Can that camera see this pole?
Yeah.
Wow, that's insane. Guys, there's a pole right next to me. You don't even know it.
My name is James Goldsworthy. I am the performance lead at Blank Theory.
And I am Shannon T. And I am senior digital designer at Blank Theory.
And we have been prepared a couple of brand positioning questions that we are going to be given and going to discuss.
Woo.
I have a great business idea and have found interested customers. I don't need to spend resources on a digital designer when I can use Canva for free.
Ah, Canva. What do you know about Canva? I know a bit.
My experience with Canva, having learnt Photoshop in uni, is that it is very templatey and very limited and not very customizable when it comes to actual things that you want to do. Yeah, the stuff that I've seen isn't great. People who go to uni, they're designers. They know about padding and what looks good and colors and stuff like that. And, you know, if you're trying to play around with Canva, and yes, it has its tools and things like organic social media posts are great with Canva, something that you can just get out there if you need to get something out there quickly. But I wouldn't leave, you know, website design or banners or anything like that to somebody who thinks that, you know, Canva is going to get away with it. So
I agree. So I've clicked around and tried to do a website. I believe it's only a single page website. So anything more complex than that, you just can't do it on there. So I guess it's good for maybe like really beginner startup businesses at home maybe that they want to whip something up. Sure, you could do a 1-pager here on my contact details. Contact me here. I think it works for that. But I will say this. I feel like it's gotten better over the years. So it's like a nice to have that's like an extra thing that may be helpful in emergencies.
Yeah, I think one of the key words there also isn't so much Canva, but just like, I don't need a digital designer. Like, depending on where your business is at and what stage it is at, there's going to become a point where, you know, your the branding and how your website looks needs to become more credible and look more professional and resonate more to the customers and look nicer. And eventually you're going to need somebody who's going to be a little bit more trained in, you know, how imagery should look and how they get conveyed and how a target audience needs to be able to resonate with those things. So whether you use Canva or even if you're at home trying to use any other kind of like free tool, like they'll get to a point where someone who has been doing this for years and wants to take your business to the next level and knows what your target audience is will become a far better resource than just not paying the money for one, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. And the other thing about templates is that they always look nice because it's 3 to 4 words, right? So anything that is short or in small paragraphs is always going to look great. But when you actually put in real content and it's like 2 to 3 paragraphs long and that's how much content is going in, usually the template gets stuffed around and then it ends up like there will be padding issues and things like that. And that's when a designer will have the eye to fix those things. The padding on this, though, having a few issues there. Also, I saw a widow on the page before. That really killed me. Okay, I have a strong...
Should we talk about widows in case it becomes good content?
Yeah, we can talk about widows.
Can you go back? Do you know
go back.
Widow. Well, there's a widow there.
Oh, yeah, there is a widow.
So a widow is like when there is one lonely word just sitting there on its own line by itself, you know, all depressed and lonely like a widow. And it just looks bad and uneven.
Yeah,
and
it looks lonely. So
even in this instance, like shift entering cell just so that cell furniture is there, or obviously just changing the font or moving out the box a little bit so that way something like 2 becomes on a separate word and you force cell to become there. It just looks a little bit nicer.
Correct. And then you also think about the outline of the words along the edge. The more jaggedy it is, the worse. Not bad is not a word. That's bad. Don't do that. Basically, you want a nice visual edge, right? You don't want it to go like this. So if we were to pull cell down, then I'd probably pull 2 to the next line as well. But if it makes successful stick out too much, then that's also a problem. So
The things that you think about. We should read this one. Read this one.
I have a strong brand and successful business in handbags. I now want to branch out my business to also sell furniture. Wow. I think it will be successful because customers already trust my brand. Ay. They're just starkly different. Like, you can't assume that it's the same target audience for handbags and furniture. Sure, from an aesthetic point of view, this person might have similar thoughts as to what kind of design they like, but this is why we run workshops. Like, we do extensive half-day, full-day workshops to flesh out what your target audience is. And what you think your target audience is might also be very different to what actually is your target audience, or what's out there, and how you position yourself amongst your peers. So I would say that is a nice thought, but
It's not to say that it can't be done.
Yeah.
It just needs to be very carefully considered. And like, you now have to think about what makes your brand already successful, and why do they already trust your brand, and there might be search volume, and there might be a little bit of room for furniture to be sold, but at the same time you need to look at who's buying your target, like who's buying your handbags. Are they your target audience? What does your website look like? How does that need to change to cater for it? What has made your brand so successful that your marketing and the creatives that are going out need to now be changed to make sure that's catering for two different parts of a business? So it can definitely be done, but like you said, like, you want to sit down, understand it, make sure that there is room for that. But selling furniture also comes with a lot of other business problems. Like selling furniture is not a very easy thing to do, obviously, if you're drop shipping it, but then you now have to look about warehousing and where that's going to be sitting, and where all that has to go out, and how shipping is now going to affect how the handbags are going out. And it's a big decision, and I guess having somebody walk that through and to bounce ideas, and like you said, a workshop would be perfect.
Unless they were like Kogan and they just had everything, then sure,
if you're
that could work. If you're a marketplace, that could work. But if it was just handbags and furniture...
I guess the question is like handbags is successful and selling well, and there is some brand credibility, so I can just add another product in, and everything's just going to flow, and I can keep on doing that. And I guess if your goal is to become like a marketplace and to keep on just adding things that you can get shipped in, or whatever it is, you have stock, so I'll just sell it because my brand is starting to get bigger and bigger, then you need to start thinking about the user journey on your website, and how somebody lands on it, and how you split two very different target audiences, which might be family and individuals. And a serious question will need to be answered around whether they should be just two different complete websites and having their own two different marketing strategies that are completely separate, rather than trying to blend and confuse and cross-sell two very different products.
Yeah, totally agree. Unless you're like Kanye West and you're like just dropping whatever, because it's about your artistry rather than the actual like type of product, then it might work. I mean, I could see him doing it and it would go off, but also it's because it's
I'm thinking about big handbag brands like Prada or something. Do they sell couches? What happened if they were just to turn around and be like,
do they?
If they say, we're selling a new couch, like, that brand is already established enough.
Correct. You'd have to be established.
That's fine, because suddenly that is the next sought after thing, and you could probably do that. But if you're a small to large, medium business sort of thing, trying to just see that there is a hole in the market, and you've been told that suddenly you can sell furniture, and you're like, oh, we should just do that. People already buy a lot of our handbags. Then there's the level of due diligence that a company like Prada would do to make sure that that thing would sell, and how they market it. You'd have to do, a fraction of that yourself.
Yeah.
And that includes workshopping, target audience, personas, and understanding whether it works.
That's right.
You can't be simultaneously timeless and follow trends. So when I read this, my first thought is about like logos, and how every company over the time has tried to have like a logo that is going to be forever. But, whether it's a couple of decades, they will slowly change it. Look at the Google logo and how that's changed to be somewhat timeless, but at the same time following trends, and like everything's moving towards more minimalistic now. And things are a little more flat.
No drop shadows.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you can't be timeless. There's definitely some like visual elements, I guess specifically logos, that have lasted the test of time, and that's because they are simple and they've avoided the things that we've over time learned to hate around logos. And I think there is obviously a hesitancy to want to not change a logo because you've spent so hard creating that brand. But, you know, can you be timeless and follow trends at the same time?
Yeah, you can. I think, for example, Nike. It is a brand that has been around for decades. It's timeless in the sense that, well, we feel like it's also very nostalgic because we like grew up with it as well. But it's timeless because everyone just knows that tick and they know the brand. It's really concreted itself into the world. But it follows trends through campaigns. So they will often, for example, find sports people to run campaigns with, and the look and feel of that campaign can be really about, like right now, 90s is really in at the moment. There are ways around it. You can be both. You can be, but I guess that's a bit harder because they are such an established brand.
Well, they weren't established at one point. I think the having them create a logo that is so minimalistic and easy to just put black and white anywhere, and it's not complicated, has allowed that to be timeless. And like you said, like through the eras, they've just changed up their marketing and their campaign with what is on trend. And I think it really speaks to just, you know, keeping it simple.
And it's not so black and white. Like this prompt, I feel, is a lot more grey than what it's saying. It's not one or the other. There are many elements to a brand that can be both. Yeah.
If you go into a workshop and your key thing is like, I want this logo to be timeless, then I do feel like you'll struggle to think, like, you don't know what's going to happen in 50 years or whatever it might be, or 30 years. But it's the same thing. Like, if you want to follow trends and you change your logo so often, you'll also run into branding issues. So you kind of have to, I think, cater for both in a way.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not necessary. Like, trend, the word has bad connotation sometimes. So I guess it's more just keeping up to date with society, the world. Because things in our industry especially are evolving so quickly. You just can't. You'll fall behind if you're not on top of things.
Hopefully this was informative and you learned something along the way. Feel free to give us a call. We're happy to talk about anything further with you in person. Whatever you think the next episode should be about, chuck it in the comments.
Thanks for watching.